What's up, Wizards? It's Dev from The Place, and we're actually welcoming a guest to The Place. At this point, he basically lives here. It's Daquan Watson, the Power Dragon. Not some
I'm
sort
like a
of
neighbor at this point.
yeah. You basically live in The Place with me. This void that looks like an office. It's not. It's actually The Place.
I just got a
Um,
house at the end of the cul-de-sac.
yeah, we've actually. This is where all of us live. The professor lives just down.
Yeah,
You didn't know
exactly.
that. There's actually an MTG like neighborhood. We have a lot of fun. Wouldn't that be the best thing in the
Do you
world if it were
remember
true?
back when Vine was a thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like a
Absolutely.
bunch of creators actually moved to the same neighborhood. I think it was in California at one point. They were like the big Vine creators and they did content with each other. It's
Man.
like a weird bit of social media knowledge people didn't know.
Yeah, I remember content houses being a thing, and I kind
Yeah,
of hate that we never did that with Magic the Gathering. Although I'm sure if we did, we would all hate each other by now. So
probably,
that's
probably.
probably a good thing. You ever tried living with a Magic player? It's horrible. But anyway, today we're here to talk about something pretty fun. Last time Power Dragon was here, we talked about the cards that we could not wait to rotate from standard.
True.
Today, we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to talk about all the cards we're going to miss the most, and we want to hug them and keep them, and why do they have to leave, and all that stuff. So, we're mostly going to get sentimental today and talk about some cards that we've been playing with for like 3 years at this point that we're going
Yeah.
to miss very much. So, with that in mind, I'm actually going to turn it over to the guest, as is tradition around here for the first one. What is your number 10, my friend?
My number 10 is one probably nobody thinks I'm going to say, but Jewel Thief. I was going back through some of my decks and I
Yeah.
just realized like when I needed extra mana, but you're worried about a super aggressive meta, you want a blocker to while you're still building your mana in case it dies. Like it's a 3/3 body. It has vigilance, which is really cool. It just does a lot for 3 mana, and I'm kind of gonna miss it as a filler,
Yeah.
especially for like my ramp decks and stuff.
Yeah, they threw trample on it too. Like, if it can get a couple of +1/+1 counters for whatever reason, like suddenly a real threat on board, like vigilance was cool in a wandering emperor format. And just like having a decently statted, like keyword ability 3 drop that also gives you some ramp, fixes your mana, whatever color
Yeah.
you want. Like I think Topiary Stomper was probably seen as the better card, but like I really like Jewel Thief too, and that's a
I'll tell you
fantastic.
why there's a lot of lists I had. I played Jewel Thief over that is because when I was expecting, especially in best of one, a lot of mono red, Topiary Stomper has games it just doesn't get to block.
It never blocks. Yeah. Yep.
And I won a lot of games specifically because I had Jewel Thief.
Yeah, Jewelty blocks and kills like almost everything in mono red unless it prowess is too big or something like that. But
Yep.
yeah, like even Godric, I'll get in front of that.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. Like Kimana faces Kakazan tokens that just became real dudes. You know what I mean? Like, well, I guess I'll block through those now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, I mean, that's a very good pick. That's a super good pick to start things off. My number 10 is also a green creature. I'm gonna throw that out there. I have ordered my list in such a way that it gets spicier as we go on. And my first 3 picks are things people might argue with me because they're like too popular and they hate those things. So number 10, I have to admit though, is my buddy. It's Titan of Industry.
Fair. That's actually my number 3, believe it or not.
Okay. So we agree on this one.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
what a good dude. Like for reamp decks and reanimation decks, like no matter what you're doing to get him in play, this guy's awesome. I'm gonna miss him.
Like it's 2 bodies plus, right? Like because you're almost always taking 2 bodies and either gaining the life or destroying artifact or enchantment. Right? It was an ETB effect, so you could reanimate it in some cases.
Nope.
Right? You could trick it into play with different stuff, or now I guess with Smuggler Surprise.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
There's just a bunch of things. Matter of fact, I played a deck recently where I swapped some stuff out so I could put in 2 Titan of Industry.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The card is just all around quality. That is a good pick for a card we're gonna miss for sure.
Just one of the better like ramp and reanimation targets
Put
the last
Titan of
few years.
Industry on the back of a Calamity and go ham.
Go ham. I know,
Yeah.
dude. Like, oh God. Goo. I've never gotten to ride a Calamity with Titan, and that sounds really fun.
I've done it with the new 6/6 guy, the Tyrant. Vaultborn
Oh,
Tyrant. I've
yeah,
done it with that.
Volborn. Yeah, I love that guy. I think
Yeah.
he's gonna be the new Titan of Industry.
I've done it with that, with the big new Rhino that you get double counters or whatever.
Oh yeah,
And
Railway
with
Brawler.
and with Terror of the Peaks. So I've had some pretty good Calamity turns.
I do love Terror of the Peaks. Yeah, especially Terror Calamity. We can just talk about that all day.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
let's get to your number 9.
Well, number 9, coincidentally, is a red card and one that sort of fell off a little bit. But what's funny, because earlier I was recording a video and I ran into an opponent playing this, which was funny. But Thundering Raiju. I
Yeah.
I felt like it had a moment where
It
this was
did.
the card red decks played. You know, even sometimes we were playing like a Gruul deck that cared about modified stuff. It was the right card. It having haste was really good to be able to get past some problematic things. You know, your board sweepers or getting in there after they've like done some trickery to you. Like this is just a really cool card that I'm sad isn't going to get a lot of play on the way out the door because I think people
Yeah.
forgot how good this card was.
I think at some point mono red just cut 4 drops in general.
Yeah.
And that's sad because there was a point where you could argue that Thundering Raiju was the mono red deck's like Embercleave
Yeah, like
this
the finisher.
season. Yeah, basically, like if I'm still trying to kill you on turn 4, this is what's going to do it, and it doesn't even have to like get in combat damage. Like puts a counter on a thing and then does like 3 damage out of nowhere because you have modified guys. Just a really
And
good
Mod
card.
still has a lot of modified stuff, right? When you think about the fact that there's Commando Faces Kakazan putting a
Mhm.
counter, you have the Rage putting a counter.
Yeah,
You know, some of
Monsters
them are
Rage.
playing what is it, demonic, whatever, the enchantment that gives yourself +1/+1 and menace, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, the one you
All
can
those things count as
foretell
being
or whatever.
modified, right? So
Yeah, and
you could,
Bloodthirsty Adversary gets a counter once you put it down
yeah.
for its kicker cost. And yeah, I mean, there's a
But
lot of ways to
again,
modify. Oh, Charming Scoundrel can get a
yep.
+1/+1 counter. Yeah.
But to your point,
Um,
mono red has gone slightly smaller,
yeah.
mostly because of the new bird, the slick
Slick
shot.
shot. Well, even
So that
before
makes it
Slick
a little bit
shot,
tough.
I feel like people switched from Raiju to either Squee or Godric.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, we saw them, especially Godric. When Gotti came along, we saw a lot more of that than Raiju. But
Absolutely.
but Raiju is one that I kind of keep in my heart too. I'm with you on that. But
So what do you got in the number 9 slot?
my number 9 is we continue on this. The first 3 are ones people are going to be like boo, but number 9 is one that I just have to admit to myself. It's Wedding Announcement. I'm going to miss having this card available
That's a good
to
one. It should have been on my list. It wasn't, but it should have been. That's a
yeah,
good one.
maybe you're just like I can't bring myself to put this like way too hated card on my list, but
No, I played it a lot.
yeah, I played it too much. Exactly. And not only in like the decks that it traditionally goes in that you hate it in, like the mono white deck and the Esper decks and all that stuff, but it's just really good at protecting your planeswalkers. It's really good in tokens decks. I occasionally built, and I think you build this deck sometimes too, like a Boros tokens deck.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I just like set it and forget it tokens. I got Urabrass Forge, I got Wedding Announcement, I got like Visions of Phyrexia or whatever it is.
Any
Um,
tokens for that
and
matter.
yeah,
Blue white
Uprising.
tokens,
Yeah,
whatever. Green white
any
tokens.
tokens
Yeah.
deck. Wedding Announcement is great in, and again, like amazing at just like building a board state in one card for a reasonable price, protecting planeswalkers, just does everything.
Or getting you a couple of cards even.
Yeah, that's another thing is like it's white card draw, and you just don't see that every day, especially in your mid-range deck that might not have access to blue or other forms of card draw.
Yeah, it feels like the
Um,
type of card we're just not going to see for a while again. It's like it's a
yeah,
unique mix of features that you're probably not going to get in one card.
but you are at number 8, I think, at this
Yep.
point.
And this is one that does work with Wedding Announcement, but Jenny Faye, actually.
Yeah, dude. Yes.
I mean, I've caught myself doing so much stuff with this card, like so many weird, tricky things, stuff that, well, it pairs with another card on my list very well. So I'll get to that later. But this is just a good card. It was easy to play in multiple different builds. And there's a lot of stuff that just makes incidental tokens, whether it's
Yeah.
treasure or clue or so whatever. That you're like, oh, you know what? I could play Jenny Fade here and I could just have 3 ones.
Yep.
Or I could just make 3 or 4 things in one turn and just attack for 6 with hasty cats or whatever the case may be, right? Like,
It's the most fun you can have with her. Is just I'm gonna make like we were just talking about these like Wedding Announcement tokens decks and stuff like that, and she's just so good with all of that.
yeah, just easy to play in a lot of decks. Just a cool card. One of those cards, too, that your opponents almost always targeted to kill because they knew things could get out of hand with it. And sadly, didn't really get a lot of time. Like, I played it in several decks, but it was one of those ones that just it'd pop up here or there, but never had a sustained period in standard, unfortunately.
Yeah, I felt like Jenny Faye was a content creator card, for
Oh,
lack of
yeah.
a better term. We all had tons of fun with this. I'm not surprised this is on your list, and it probably should have been on mine, just because like there are a lot of not just like incidental ways to make tokens, but just like not embarrassing to put into your Magic deck. Like they're actually
Yes.
really strong cards
Yep.
that create tokens. I will say she was. You've already mentioned this, but like a bit of a lightning rod.
Oh, for sure.
And that was kind of frustrating sometimes. You have your 3-drop just insta killed every game. But at the same time, like you really get rolling with a Jenny, you do some just like the most fun Magic you've ever played.
Absolutely.
I guess my number 8, and this is where we can finish off the busted cards everyone hates arc. Number 8 is Channel Lands. You know,
That's fair.
yeah.
I
I think we
mean,
may have go ahead.
no, go for it. Go for it.
I was just gonna say, I think we may have talked about these a little bit in our last video where we couldn't wait for these cards to rotate. And even if we didn't, I know we had multiple comments where people were like, I can't wait for the Channel Lands to rotate. And I guess I've just gotten too used to putting these in like every single deck I make for the last few years. I'm gonna miss them. I like having lands like these, and that's about it. You
I
know?
don't really hate them being around, partly because I like lands having more utility, right? Other than just like, oh, well, I drew land number 9. You know, it's like, oh, at least this one might be able to kill something
Yeah.
or get a creature back or whatever it is, right? You know, I don't know. It's hard to be upset at those. I mean, how we tired of seeing them? Maybe
A
because
little.
they do show up in every deck, but I'm not mad at the fact that they existed and we got to use them.
Yeah, I've never been upset that my opponent channeled a land. Like, there's been a couple times where I'm like, oh, they had the Aganjo, like you dog,
Sure.
you know. Like, there's been a couple times where I shake my fist at a Beseju, but like I've never felt like they were unfair. And like to your point, that's the best thing about them is I like when I top deck a land on turn 12 and like it also is a spell. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
These catch a lot of flack online, and I don't get why. I've always loved stuff like adding utility to lands, like you said. I'm going to piggyback on your point. That's exactly why I like them.
Yeah.
What is your 7? Yeah,
My
7.
7, this is one people have probably gotten tired of seeing, but Thalia, Guardian of Thraben.
Okay, okay.
I mean, hey,
Explain yourself.
I play more aggro mid-rangey decks than I do control decks, and Thalia is super good at saving your butt in a lot of those matchups.
Yeah.
Whether it's slowing down that first 1 or 2 removal card or making the sweepers take a turn longer, or they can't conveniently play a Wandering Imp or whatever the case may be. Like, Thalia allows for a lot of stuff for creature decks, gives you a lot more wiggle room than you would have otherwise. So I really love this card. I play a lot, even just being a 2/1 first striker is quality. Like,
Yeah.
card has so much going for it that it's definitely one I'm gonna miss a bit when deck building, not gonna lie.
Yeah. I honestly, weirdly, I don't have that many feelings on Thalia. I think a lot of people love or hate her. I think that she has a very good place. I think that she is a great way to teach Magic players how much mana 1 mana
Yep.
is. A lot of people were worried when they reprinted Thalia, and I think
It's
that
been
was,
just fine.
yeah, it has been fine. So
So what do you got at
100%
7?
in agreement. What do I have at 7? 7 is big score. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I kept looking the other day at Atraxa. I was thinking that like maybe the best deck after rotation is going to be whichever deck can reliably get an Atraxa into play, the fastest or whatever. And you think, well, Domain's not gone, but Domain loses to Tri-Lands. So
Sure.
Domain loses Topiary Stomper for what that's worth. So if we're not, let's say, ramping her into play, or like how are we getting to Atraxa into play? And the two answers are ramp still and reanimation. And big score, I noticed, is also rotating. And
Yep.
like that sucks because you can either drop her in your graveyard to reanimate her, or you can ramp with big score to just cast her. And like we can't do that anymore. And it just kind of sucks. Not even outside of the context of Atraxa, it just sucks not having big score for reanimation in general because it's such a good
Yeah.
card. Like, how do you feel about big score?
No, I think that's a good call. Like, I was thinking, I've played that in quite a few lists, and for a lot of reasons. Sometimes you're just ramping up for the mana. Sometimes I want treasure, particularly.
Yeah.
Like that card fits a lot of different builds. So yeah, that's one. Again, when you're deck building, we will find other things, but that was a very convenient choice for a lot of stuff.
So much. It went in too many things. But yeah, a quick stop on big score there. I feel like we've had this card for longer than just New Capenna. I feel like it was in another set before that. Like, I feel like this one has been in standard for an extra long time. And
I feel like we've
maybe
had like 4 mana things that would like search for 2 lands and stuff like that, but we haven't had the full package of getting to
exactly this.
draw and make treasure and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say it was called something not it wasn't called Big Score. It was called something else, but it's still like a two and two red for treasure tokens and discard and draw, something like that. But I forgot
Mm.
what it's called. But I feel like we've had a similar effect forever. We're gonna miss it now. But what is your 6?
Remember that card I said was going to pair with Jenny Faye?
Mm-hmm.
Galag Readers.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you'd say Jetmir. Gala Greeters is a way better pick. Yeah, I'll miss this
Yeah,
card too.
I do. I mean, I like Galag Readers a lot. Like, way
Mm,
more than I should, to be honest. But, I mean, it's been good when you've wanted something against mono red for the constant life gain. It's been good when you're playing stuff like the Wormlets. You can get an artifact every
yeah,
turn, right? Like, it just grows itself. So if you're playing a deck cares about +1/+1 counters with like Kadama the West Tree or whatever, like that's a
yep.
thing. Like, it just fits so many different decks. And then, like we're saying with Jenny Faye, well, now you're just turning treasure and getting double triggers because you're
The
turning treasure
cats
into
and
a
stuff.
animal, and then the animal triggers the Gala
Gala
Greeters, and
Greeters. Yep.
yeah. So much stuff you could do with this card. And it kind of had a few moments here and there. So I'm not gonna say it didn't get played in standard at all. It had its time. But it's definitely one I'm gonna miss because I do like deck building with it.
Yeah. And your point about how it goes and everything, 100%. Plus one counter decks with like Botanical Brawler and
Yep.
stuff like that. And just like even like Mono Green Stompy will occasionally play this card. Like this in the 2-drop slot with Kyrion Beast Collar, you're kind of good to go, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll miss this too. Just situationally, like maybe I need the life, maybe I need the ramp. Like it's all good. I think that this card would have been like busted and super playable if it was choose two every time a creature comes into play or
Oh
something.
no, you
But
can't do that with this
yeah, you
card.
just can't do
Absolutely can't.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But instead, I feel like this card was like the exact right power level.
Yeah, it couldn't
And
even be a 2/2. Like, it
yeah,
literally has to be the card it
one
is
one, right?
without being busted.
I like when they nail power level, and they definitely did on this one. So really good pick on that. I'll miss that too. I feel like that's one that I reach for a lot.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. My number 6, it's a green 2-drop. It's it's Shigeki. I'm gonna miss Shigeki, Jukai
Oh, that's not
Visionary.
bad either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. This is another one where, like, even if I wasn't building a straight up Shigeki deck, there were a lot of times where I'd be building mid range or something, and I'd be like, "Huh, I got room for a Shigeki loop in here." You know, it's like,
Yep. Yeah.
why
Especially
not?
if you have the banner.
Like, I guess like a sort of honorable mention alongside this, like its sidekick, Colossal Sky Turtle, I will
Fair.
also miss a
Fair.
good bit. But especially just being able to like, okay, I've got 2 slots left in this mid range deck or this control deck or whatever, and I'm playing green. Therefore, Shigeki. You know, it's like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna miss that. And he goes in like weird brews too. So just
It's a neat
he's
card too because it's kind of a ramp card. It's
mhm.
kind of a recursion card. Like, it does a little bit, and it's not even it's a reasonable size creature even, so it can chump
Yeah,
block a little bit.
it can block like 2 power dudes
Yeah.
and not sweat. So I don't know. It's just I've always liked Shigeki. And I carry a one of Shigeki in like 10% of my decks. Like it's actually a pretty good,
I don't
percentage.
think I played it that much, but I get it. I feel it.
We are on your number 5, right? We're
Yeah,
halfway
number
down.
5. People now this is my turn to list something people are gonna hate. But fight rigging.
It was
Just
almost on mine. It was
good
almost
old
on mine.
3-mana enchantment, awesome hideaway, get to play
Yep.
something for free, pump a creature every turn. Like, the number of times I found like ridiculous things I could do with this, getting huge creatures into play, or
Yep.
even just pumping up a creature in a +1/+1 counter deck and using it for extra value. Like, this card's just all around good. It allows all kinds of dumb things to happen. Type of cards your opponents almost have to always stop or come after. You even saw it getting co-opted by dinosaurs at one point,
Yeah.
to try to do
Yeah.
big dumb silly things.
It's really good with dinosaurs.
Yeah, so like
Um,
this card, yeah, I'm definitely gonna miss this one because it almost gave us more ways to play with cards that cost high enough value that we wouldn't otherwise play with. You know?
True. Just because you're getting them for free on turn 4, like
Yeah.
guaranteed. Like I think that there's been no better time to play fight rigging than right now. We've just got this huge standard full of dudes that work on turn 2 with this, or like 3 drops you can play the turn after you play it, or like you play the 6/4 or 6/6 on turn 3, and
Yeah.
then you play fight rigging on 4. You just get a free whatever you want. And there's just more lines, like more ways of doing that than ever before now. And I have to say, I didn't put fight rigging on my list. It barely didn't make my list because as much as I love brewing around this card, and I think standard needs these like strong, fun brew arounds like this, I also hate when my opponent plays a fight rigging against me.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
So it didn't quite make my list because like I've been annoyed by it too many times. But that's
Can't blame you one bit.
even though I will say, even though I'm annoyed by fight rigging occasionally, if my opponent plays like Sheldred the Apocalypse or Rafine Scheming Seer or something or Wandering Emperor and I know it's coming, Sunfall on 5, like these are things I'm way more annoyed by because I've seen them a lot more.
Well, sure.
There is still a part of my brain that when opponent hits fight rigging, I'm like so happy for them.
Oh yeah, but you just know, like, let's see if they found something under it.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's the other thing with fight rigging is that you wait for the spin. Like, what did they hide away here? Because it might just be like a 2.
Yeah, and it's a crapshoot. Sometimes they don't have anything, and that adds to the fun of the card. Really.
Here comes the Italia, but it's just like a mana dork.
Yeah, exactly. I've been there. I've totally done that.
See, number 5 on mine is Patchy, man, the Patchwork Tomato, Patchwork Automaton.
Yeah.
I subtly think that Patchwork Automaton is like one of the best creatures printed in the last 5 years. Like
that's a strong take.
I know it's really like that's a crazy statement, but like, look at this guy. Look, I know you can't. He's not right in front of you or whatever. We'll use the magic of YouTube editing to put him on the screen.
Exactly. We'll put these on for everybody.
This dude, he's 2 mana and he starts as a 1/1, and I get that, but he has ward too. So like you probably have like 2 or 3 turns to grow this dude.
Yeah.
And that, like, I'm telling you, like just 1 turn, right? The ward 2 is meant to give you 1 turn, and that is all you need for Patchy to be like a 5/5, like super easily. This guy isn't like the best card in like Simic Cookies, and some Simic Cookies decks, like Zoetic Glyphs decks, don't even play this guy. But I have just had so many good times with Patchwork Automaton. Like anytime you go to build anything artifact centric, he goes directly in for me.
You know what the downfall for this card was not getting played as much is we made too many more things that cared about artifacts entering the battlefield.
Yeah.
And then we were able to
trigger or something.
Yeah, and we were able to replace with cards like Sentinel of the Nameless City that just make an artifact every turn.
Right.
Yeah. And that was the biggest difference. Because I'm with you. I think this is a really good card, honestly. And I played it a lot, prior, like I said, to the shift. And we got like Wormlet and some of these other things. And it's like,
right. These things kind of pushed it out of the deck.
Yeah, it started to be a little better to play fewer and fewer Patchwork Automatons. And eventually you weren't playing any anymore. But yeah, this is a card people might have forgotten about. But it's a pretty sweet card.
But we are on your number 4.
My number 4. You called it earlier. Jetmir. Good old dude.
I saw you make a face.
The party man, master of revels or whatever we call him, like Nexus of Revels. I don't know why I said master.
Yeah,
Revels,
Nexus. Yeah,
dude. Like, I have stolen games that I should not have won because of this card.
Yep.
Like, I've coincidentally got it under a fight rigging. I've gotten it off of rabble rousing.
Ooh.
I've rabble roused right into this card, which was sick.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Yeah, just so many fun. And honestly, there's really sometimes I've just played it straight up. Okay, turn 4. My guys are still getting a +1 or a +2, depending on what's on the battlefield. Just like, yeah, let's go for it. Right? Like, it's just a cool card all around. Definitely underplayed. But man, this card, when it hits and sticks, game doesn't last long.
Nope.
Like, and I'm a little attached to it because I've done some stupid things with it in Commander as well. But as far as
I bet this is a fun. Did you play it as your Commander?
No, I just have it in the 99.
Okay. Yeah.
But as this card goes in Standard, definitely not what I would call a standard staple or powerhouse. Just really fun to build with. If you want to shake up the metagame and have some fun and best of one, like some cool stuff you could do with this. And it made the game just not boring because you just got crazy, cool, big things all the time. So yeah, gonna miss this one for sure.
What are we on 4?
Yeah, number 4
already. Oh my god, number 4 is a quick one. I think for me, it's Rite of Oblivion.
Oh, I forgot about that one. That is a good one.
I love like aristocrats, like sacrifice stacks and stuff. I'm always trying to make Illisil Core work. She's my fiance. Everybody knows the joke that comes to my channel. It's just my favorite card in Standard is Illisil Core, who's kind of a blood artist, soul warden, all in one. Aristocrats decks have been kind of like my bread and butter on the channel for a long time. It's almost, if you know me as a Magic player, it's what I'm known for.
Okay.
And Rite of Oblivion is like the best Aristocrats removal spell you could even imagine. Like, come up with one, and like it will be Rite of Oblivion. It takes out any non-land permanent exiles that you can cast it twice. So you just have to sack a token. Like, and like I'm not gonna have that anymore. It's really sad, honestly. That's
No,
all I have to
I
say is
don't blame
like,
you. Like that is a good one. And the fact that it's barring somebody exiling it from your graveyard or whatever, like it's
mm,
two removal spells in one card. And if you have tokens already to get rid of, you don't really care.
nah, I don't care about this nonsense.
Yeah.
Just your best guy, your best thing in your deck twice. So,
Now
yeah.
that being said, we knew Titan was my number 3. So what's your number 3?
All right. So my number 3 is this is probably the weirdest card on my list.
Okay.
But I mean it, buddy. Number 3 is Mindlink Mech.
That's
Um,
not the weirdest thing you could have had on here. I thought you were going to say
uh,
something crazier. But
no,
yeah, I get it.
my top 3 is what I'm calling kind of the jank zone. Like these are the
That's
jankiest cards I'm
fine.
going to talk about. And Mindlink Mech, dude, just like this is one of those cards. Really, my top 3 is all the cards that if my opponent plays it against me, I tip my hat. I'm like, okay,
Okay.
sir or madam, that's cool. I'm glad you did that. I'm glad I had that experience playing Magic today. And like Mindlink Mech is definitely one of those cards where like if they mech on turn 3 and then like Bloodletter of Aclazotz on turn 4 and like
Yeah.
hit me for 16 or whatever that combo is, like I'm always like, okay, good job. When they hit you with what is it like Combat Thresher into Mindlink Mech, and I think that they swing over for like 8 double strike. You can do the same thing with the Lizard Blades.
Yep.
And
I've
there's
done
just
that.
all kinds of see, like everyone has their like Mindlink Mech combo that they love. And this card never really got that much attention again outside of like content creator circles. But you and I, and the rest of us all did like so much entertaining stuff with this
Yeah,
card.
I think it only had like a small moment near when Kamigawa came out and people were trying different types of vehicle decks and doing that whole thing. But after like about 4 to 6 months,
Yeah.
unless you were in like the creator space or whatever, you really didn't see it too much, honestly.
Nope. And that's sad because it's such a cool design. And there's so much fun stuff you could do with it. Even though like most of the cards you could do with it don't have the highest card quality. Like I like Combat Thresher. I don't want to be locked into Combat Thresher.
Yeah.
Like, so I get that. But I don't know. All the stuff was just really fun and it's gonna be lame not to have it. But I have a fear that our number 2 or 1 will be the same.
I
But
bet
what's your
they're
number
not.
2?
I bet they're not.
Okay. All
Because
right.
my number 2 is a dragon. Because I have to have one dragon on my list because, branding.
So is
But
mine.
at Sushi, the Blazing Sky.
Okay. Yeah. This was almost on my list, but I went with a different dragon. This is a very, very, very good pick.
Yeah, this one, especially lately, I've caught myself playing it in a lot
Yeah.
of decks because of stuff like, like we're saying earlier, like Smuggler's Surprise, right? Like if this dies, I'm set up to Smuggler Surprise next turn, right? Because of the treasures I get when it goes away. Or if I want to make sure I'm not losing value to something like a Liliana or whatever, right? I could play
Right.
it, it dies, I get access to either 2 more cards or enough treasure that I could play 2 or 3 things next turn,
It's a
right?
really good
It
point.
just allowed a lot of stuff. And when you're talking about going against other small flyers or whatever, especially right now where it's stuff like Deep Cavern Bats and the 1/1 Pirate or whatever,
Yep. Oh yeah.
like you have a 4/4 Trampler in the air.
Even like Slick Shot Show Off,
Yeah,
like
exactly. It's a real blocker and you get value for your creature dying.
well,
So it's like,
a lot of value.
yeah, a
I
card
can't
I
tell
don't
you.
see enough, honestly.
Yeah, really, we never saw it enough.
Mhm.
I've really liked this card the whole time it's been around too. I can't tell you how many times like on stream that I've like played in it sushi and been like, okay, please kill that.
Oh,
Kill
yeah,
that.
totally.
Right. And then like because it ramps you into the Atali or the Atraxa or whatever dumb thing you're doing. This card is phenomenal. I'm gonna miss this so much. So I just want to thank you for putting it on your list
Yeah,
because
it's such an easy card to play too. It's like if it lives, great. I have a 4/4 flyer. If it
yeah,
doesn't, all value. Like I want to block your biggest thing and then go off next turn. Right? It's just a cool card, and I'm surprised more people didn't play it. Honestly, I thought we'd have seen it a lot more than we did.
you have a pretty diverse set of choices when it comes to 4/4 flyers, especially in
Hmm.
red. And I think this is the best of all of them
Same.
in standard. Um, my number 2 is also a dragon.
Okay.
And I was like, when I put this on my list, I was like, okay, this will be on his list. Because I've seen you play this card in like a dozen decks over the last 2 years. And you may have seen me play it in a dozen. If you've been on stream, you've seen me play this card. It's Zayatora the Incinerator.
Sweet
I'm
card.
Oh my god, dude. I'm gonna miss this little lady. There's so many cool things. Like just recently, the most recent thing I've done with this was the Terror of the Peaks stuff,
Yeah.
along with Vaultborn Tyrant. Because you'll sacrifice the Vaultborn Tyrant. and then you'll get a copy of Vaultborn
Yeah, you get
Tyrant.
another tyrant. You don't even lose
Right.
value. Yeah.
Also draw you a card and like gain you 3 life. It's so gross. And like if you push pull a Zayatora and a Vaultborn Tyrant into play, then like, yeah, you got to sack them at end of turn. But again, you get a fresh copy of Vaultborn Tyrant, and you got, the Vaultborn Tyrant saw the
And the
Zayatora come
treasure
into
you
play.
get.
And the treasure, you get 3
Mhm.
treasures or whatever. It's just like the value that you can create is ridiculous. I mean, you see me foaming at the mouth over it. And that's just one interaction. It's like way back in the day, you could do crazy stuff with this and Olivia, which I will also
Yeah.
miss. And just front to back, the whole time this card's been in standard, I've done wacky stuff with it, and I shed a tear, like knowing that it'll be gone soon.
Yeah, it's another one I think people tried for a minute and then just kind of got away from,
Yeah.
because again, we just have a lot of cards with a lot of value. And that's kind of the thing about having such a large standard, isn't even that cards are lesser than other cards. It's just like you only have so much room when you're deck building,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So sometimes stuff gets forgotten about. But that's Zator is a good call.
But we are at your number 1. And I'm,
My number
again,
one,
I think I know what it is. And
I kind of want to just say lands as a whole, to be honest, but I actually am going with the tri
oh,
lands
okay.
because, I mean, really,
Controversial.
we're going to lose a fair amount of lands, right? After this rotation that we've just played in so many things that are very good.
Yeah,
But
slow lands are going to suck to lose.
the tri lands really allowed a lot of stuff to happen, and it made those mid-rangey 3-color decks a lot easier because you had a non-damage land, that was providing 3 different colors, so you could play a lot of double color stuff, which was super nice. Additionally, they counted as different land types. Sometimes that was important.
That was really important.
And late game, they're a card, right? You just cycle it, get another card. You're not like wasting a space. So when you got to those, like, do I want to play a 26 land or 27th? Like, okay, well, if I play a couple of triomes, if I get them late, they're at least a card, right? So yeah, I think I'm gonna miss that in deck buildings. But now, not so much when I'm doing 2-color stuff, but definitely when I'm doing 3 colors, that those lands covered. That's something I'm definitely gonna miss.
I'm going to miss the freedom
Yeah,
that these give to deck building. Sometimes you're on stream and you're just like, hey, Chad, I just had a weird idea for a 4-color deck that does dumb stuff. And like these kind of make that so much more of a possibility. So I am excited. The reason these didn't make my list is I'm excited to see what happens without them.
sure.
I'm reticent. I'm reluctant. Again, I like having these as an option, but
I'll say I think we still have enough lands, right? We have a lot of
yeah,
2-color lands across the board. I think every combination has at least 4 now, because you have
something like
like the
that.
restless lands. You have hell, even more than that, I guess. If you talk about the fact we actually have the fast lands, we've got
Fastlands,
the
pain lands.
yeah, got to have uh the deserts, right? Those are things that are actually
We have
relevant
the
for aggro decks.
surveil lands as
Yeah, so
well.
we have choices.
We built Mardu on stream the other night, and the mana wasn't too bad. I feel like it was a little Painland heavy, but it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, so like
So,
everything's still doable. It's just not as convenient when you don't have utility lands that do other things other than just be lands.
right. I do like that they draw a card too. Like I'll miss these. I'll admit that I'll miss these.
So what's your number one that you were afraid I had on my list?
I was almost sure, dude. It like if you'd asked me like make Power Dragons what you think his list is going to be, I thought this would have been like your number one. So I'm just kind of amazed that this wasn't anywhere. Like I get to have this. That's because I know you agree. I know for a fact you'd be like, oh yeah, number one is Oni Colt Anvil.
That's a good one. Actually, that would have been like my number 11 or 12. But
Okay, so like honorable mention,
yeah,
like, you
but
know what I
it's a
mean?
good card for
I was
sure.
gonna say this is another one, like just like Zayator, I've seen you have some fun with
Yep,
this over the last
yep.
few years. Especially lately, like the tricks with this and O'Hare Axonil
Oh,
are
even better,
gross.
the 2-mana the extruder out of OTJ, where you can
Legion
turn an
Extruder.
artifact into a 3/3 and like,
Yes.
oh, so much
So
value you get
good.
out of that.
So good. Yeah, man. I feel like especially these last couple of sets, they have pushed an Oni Cold Anvil deck into very close to playability.
Hmm.
Like actual like top level
Yeah.
playability. And no one's paying attention to it. But I think this deck is very, very good right now. And it just sucks. We're only gonna have like less than a month to play with it because I just again, this is an aristocrats card. I like sacrifice decks. And I especially like this kind of artifact sacrifice thing they're doing here. There's a weird like goblins deck you can
Yep.
build with Oni Cold Anvil. There's just so many different like ways to approach it. You can just play broken artifacts. You can just play broken cards that happen to give you artifacts like Epicure,
Well, it's not even
Blood Tithe
broken cards.
Harvester.
It's just like quality mid-rangey cards that all
Just good cards.
together give you a sequence of effects.
Yep. This is
Yeah.
another one of those. Like I feel like the problem with Oni Cold Anvil was that it's usually the worst card in its own deck.
Well, I mean, you could pair it with Comball. You know, like
it's amazing with
comes into play. You deal the additional damage to the opponent or drain them for one, effectively. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff you can do right now.
It's one of those cards that kind of feels like Insidious Roots as like a build around that people were really excited about that didn't really pan out. The difference is that Insidious Roots still has like a chance post rotation, and this is just like over. It's just, and I really hate this is over.
Yeah, I think the difference though for me is that with Roots, if you don't get Insidious Roots, the deck feels very clunky.
Yeah.
Whereas,
and you do have to play a lot of like bad cards in that.
Yeah,
deck.
whereas we're talking about, you can play stuff like Comball, the Extruder, or if you want to go the other route and play like O'Hare Ashenil or whatever, right? Like you have other quality cards, even if your Anvil doesn't stick.
Right.
Right. I think that's the difference in those two decks.
Blood Tithe Harvester and stuff.
Absolutely.
Good Magic cards.
Yeah.
You know, you can play the 3-mana Obnixilis and a 4-mana Obnixilis. And like these are fine cards too. It's just there's so many. That's another thing about Anvil is that I'm just not sure that we ever found like the proper build for this. I do think it suffered from like really, really high card quality. Like you have to be so good to be good now. But at the same time, I do think there's a build out there for this, and it's one of the stories of this last 3 years of Standard to me in my heart, right, as a Magic player, is that there probably was an Only Cold Anvil deck, and we will never have like dug it up. Like as the archaeologists were supposed to be,
ones. But I just think, there's some decks too that take less. I don't want to insult anybody, but it's like less skill intensive to play. There's
a pretty complicated deck.
Yeah, you have to take a lot of risk and calculated stuff on like, okay, is this token actually going to die, or can I afford to sacrifice it? And if so, am I turning it into another thing, or am I just doing it for the 1 damage? Right. I think that's the thing that makes those decks difficult. But yeah, still
it's also not the most fun deck to play on Arena.
Sure, it's also true. A lot of triggers.
The Cauldron Familiar issue.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Too many triggers to have to click through, and people hate it. So maybe it suffered from that too.
But you still have 6 weeks to play with all these cards. So, you can still get some
20
games
cards. Yep. To get out there and enjoy. And honestly, I don't think we shared a card, which is
just the Titan of Industry, I think.
Just Titan. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess just, good design on most of the stuff we talked about today. I'm going to miss all of them. And I'm glad that we were able to, again, like kind of give them a special little spotlight on their way.
Send off.
Exactly. They deserve it, But either way, that is about it, I think, for this one. I guess do all the YouTube stuff on your way out, everybody. Make sure you like the video, sub to the sandwich, go over to Power Dragon's channel. If you're not watching his stuff, I don't know what's wrong with you. Go watch his stuff. He's really, really good at it.
I have crazy standard stuff literally every day.
Every single day.
And if you want some cool podcast action, we do talk about the more serious side of gaming and Magic. So that goes up once a week too. You can get that over on the channel now.
So go check out Power Dragon stuff. This is like the 8th time he's been on the channel. So if you haven't like taken
has it been that many already?
It's
it might be
hyperbole,
actually.
But I think we're getting to at least the halfway
mark.
It
might be.
It's the 4th or 5th time. So in any case, like you really will move in eventually. But
I'll come visit you and we'll do some content from your place.
That would actually be good. We should trade off on that. I'll come to yours. You come to mine.
Hey, I got a guest room.
I'll bring my pajamas. I do too. Need to actually play some Magic with cards. True. Can you imagine to record a Commander game? We should do it. I don't know. We're teasing the people with content that I hope they eventually get.
Okay. Let's leave them with this. If you made it to this part in the video, leave us your favorite wrestler and a comment if you're a wrestling fan, because that might be happening soon. And if you know, you know.
Yep. If you know, you know. We've been talking about it for too long, and it's probably time to actually do it. So yes, do that. Leave your favorite wrestler all time down there in the comments. And maybe that will be brought up on a different platform at some point. But in any case, just do all that stuff on your way out. And I will turn it over to Power Dragon for a second. Tell us anything you got going on, any special stuff you wanted to come see, all the things. Go ahead.
Yeah, tons of stuff. We'll say, depending on when you're watching this, if you're going to, I guess it's MagicCon Vegas, I'll be out there at some point. But
Nice.
otherwise, just come check out my stuff over at Trap Power Dragon. It's spelled weird. It's POWRDRAGN. But hey, you can look me up, and I've got stuff literally on YouTube every day. You should come hang out.
I'll tell you what, I'll make it easy for you guys. I'll leave a link in the description to Power Dragon's channel. You can just
I even
kind of
have an
peruse
active Discord,
everything.
actually. I was just looking at that. We have almost 700 people in my Discord, which is crazy.
Really?
Which is
Jeez,
absolutely
wow.
crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's freaking
huge.
fantastic.
Wow, man. Congrats. I feel like I should tell you that's a huge Discord. But for now, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Probably going to talk about wrestling or something for the next hour or so once we stop recording. But for now, everybody, we're going to get out of your hair. I am Deb from the place. This guy over here was Power Dragon. We love you all very much, and we will catch you cats later. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.